When streaming platforms like Netflix and Spotify first emerged, they promised an affordable alternative to pricey cable TV and individual music purchases, offering a vast library for a low monthly fee. However, as other media companies jumped on the bandwagon, launching their own streaming services and pulling their content from competitors, consumers are now faced with the burden of multiple subscriptions and escalating costs. On top of needing multiple subscriptions to watch the content you want, the prices of individual streaming services are skyrocketing. Worse yet, consumers are finding themselves purchasing access to digital content only to have it removed from libraries at a later date, becoming inaccessible without refunds nonetheless. One of the latest examples of this is just recently, the popular anime streaming service Funimation announced that it will be shutting down and migrating fully to Crunchyroll. However, as Funimation states, access to previously available digital copies that users have already bought and paid for life will not be supported on Crunchyroll. We're inching closer and closer to what the World Economic Forum predicted: you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. I don't know about you, but that doesn't make me very happy. Luckily, there's an alternative. In today's video, I'll show you how to create your own streaming service with content you actually own and can actually be happy about. The product I'm going to be using for this is called Jellyfin, which is a free and open source media server that will allow you to host your own movies, shows, music, books, and even photos on your own server. Jellyfin can be accessed by the web, your desktop, your mobile phone, your smart TV, and more. It's similar to Plex Media Server, but it's open source and free to use without any sort of monthly subscription necessary. Plus, the fact that it's open source means it's more trustworthy, at least in my opinion. So just for today's demo, I'm going to be installing this on a local VM on my desktop here that's running Ubuntu server. That's what this is here running in my terminal. I just SSH'd into that locally. And since this is Ubuntu, all you have to do is navigate to the downloads page of the Jellyfin and expand the Debian Ubuntu install instructions. And luckily they have this nice script here that will basically do everything for you. Now, it is always best practice to actually review a script before running it on your device to make sure that it hasn't been manipulated by a malicious actor. But in this case, since it's just going to be a VM and I'm going to just delete it afterwards, I'm just going to YOLO it and run it. So just copy and paste that into your terminal of your server and hit enter. Now, for whatever reason, this install script is a bit janky. It actually doesn't prompt you to enter your super user password. And it just kind of sits here and it might look like the install isn't running, but it actually is waiting for you here to enter your sudo password so you can actually get this installed. I'm going to do that now. Once you enter that in, it's going to check your OS and just double check with you to make sure that it looks correct. In this case, it is, so I'll just press enter. So once it's finished installing, it's going to prompt you to navigate to your browser on port 8096 to get access to the Jellyfin interface. So I just need to grab my IP address. And it's going to bring you through a setup wizard here. English, next. Username, we'll give it a password. And now it's going to ask you to set up a media library. So in order to do this, we're going to actually have to get the Jellyfin user, because a part of the install script created a user called Jellyfin. We're going to have to actually create this in a folder that Jellyfin user can access so you can view that from the Jellyfin interface. So I'm just going to go and switch to back one level to home. I'm going to make a directory for my media. And then I'm going to run this command to give Jellyfin access to this folder. And you can see Jellyfin for media. And I'm going to create a movies folder and a music folder. Run that as sudo. And double check here. It didn't apply the Jellyfin, so I'm going to go ahead and do that same command again on these two folders. All right. So now Jellyfin should have access to everything here. And we'll confirm that by going back to our Jellyfin browser. I'm going to select the movies content, display name movies, and then add that folder. So it's here, home, media, movies. So yes, it does have access to it. I'm going to leave everything else default for now, but you can double check this at a later time when you go and do this yourself to see if there's anything that you should enable here to suit your needs. Click OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the music folder. Same process. We'll click next. English, yes. Allow remote connections to the server. So this is in case you want to access this outside of your network. You can go ahead and click that. By default selected, which probably you want to leave it at. They also have an option here for automatic port mapping. So what this is going to do is use UPnP to automatically open up a port on your network in order to access this from outside of your network. But it seems like nowadays there's a lot of weirdness going on with ISPs, and that actually might not work for you. In this case, I don't actually want to be able to access outside my network since this is just a local install, and I'm not actually going to be using this instance of it in my day-to-day activity, so I'm just going to leave that unchecked for now. We'll talk about later some other ways to enable remote access from outside your network in case you want to stream stuff if you're not home. And we're done. All right, and then it's going to prompt us to sign in. The user is Jellyfin, and then the password is the password that you set up earlier. Boom. You can see our movies and music folders are here with nothing in them, obviously. So now I'm going to talk about how you actually obtain music and movies in a format in which you can add it to your Jellyfin and be able to access this DRM-free at any time from your own server. This is files that you actually own and that cannot be taken away from you. That's what's so important about Jellyfin and hosting your own streaming service. So I'm going to get into that now. Starting with music. So actually, surprisingly, in 2024, despite the fact that all these companies are migrating to this DRM junk where they make it so you have to listen to their music on their platform you don't actually own, DRM-free music is actually still surprisingly easy to come across. And I'm just going to show you a couple of places that I like to go to download, grab some of that. Probably starting with Qobuz here. I don't actually know how to pronounce that. It's a French word, but that's what I'm going to go with, Qobuz. But anyway, this is a pretty good library here. Has a lot of the stuff that you're probably going to be interested in. And the nice thing about this is it's all high quality music. So none of that 128 kilobits per second junk that they're pushing on the streaming services. Actual high quality music, which is important now that we have a lot of very good audio equipment for relatively good price here in 2024. You're going to be able to find a lot of stuff on here. For me, I specifically listen to a lot of like electronic music, dubstep, some metal, and some trap metal. Sometimes I have a little bit of issue finding some of that dubstep stuff. So that's when I go to Beatport, which is specific for electronic music and will pretty much have everything that I need in that genre of music. It's a little bit more expensive, but same thing as Qobuz, has high quality audio. Another one called HD Tracks. I actually haven't used this one yet, but I have seen people use this before. You can see Jennifer Lopez on here, Paramore. It has some of the more popular artists, still pretty good library of music. If you can't find anything on the other two, this would be a good option. Bandcamp. Typically more of like the indie stuff here, but you can still probably find some of the more popular music. Again, high quality here as well. And worst case scenario, if I can't find any music on any of those other platforms, iTunes is going to have it. They have their own encoding that's actually pretty good. They can get away with higher quality music with lower file sizes. It's not the best out there, but it's still pretty good, and it will be good for most people. And if you buy a song on the iTunes store, it does come in M4A format, which is DRM-free, surprisingly. In order to access your media from your Jellyfin server, you're obviously going to have to upload some media into those files that were created earlier. So for me, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to STP something from my local drive over to the VM. Reason I'm doing that is because it's a headless Ubuntu server, and it's not really just as easy as dragging and dropping for me. But if you're running this on just a normal Ubuntu desktop or Windows or something like that, obviously you can just plug in your drive with the media that you have and then drag and drop it into the file that you want. But for me, I am in my external hard drive, and I am going to upload this Bite Back album by Vastive. Great album, just came out for those who like dubstep. But I'm just going to use the SCP-R because I want it to do everything in that folder. And I'm going to do Bite Back. And it is at 192.168 and 22.72, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm just going to upload it to my home folder because I'll need to copy it from my home folder into the Jellyfin folder using root. And I'm not going to root SCP into there because I can't. Oh, forgot to do my username. Enter my password for my server. All right, and if we go back here, this is on the server again. I should see all that Bite Back albums in my home folder. So sudo move Bite Back, and then I'm going to do music for the password. And I can see now all of that stuff is in there, and it's an AIF format. This is what I got from Beatport. We go back to our Jellyfin server, and I can click the three dots here under music, refresh, and it's going to scan for new uploaded files. Now that it did that, you should see that Bite Back album is now in my box, and I'm able to stream that from anywhere I want on my home network in this case, because I haven't set up external yet. All right, now I want to get some movies and TV shows uploaded to my Jellyfin, and that is far less straightforward unless you're sailing the deep blue seas. But if you do want to get your stuff legally, probably the best way is to buy the DVD or the Blu-ray and then rip that and then upload the ripped file to your Jellyfin server. And one of the best ways to do that is with MakeMKV. I'm just going to go to the download section to get that started. MakeMKV for Windows and Mac OS is also available in download below. So that's easier to do on Windows and Mac. But if you have Linux, it's a little bit more difficult, but it's not that big of a deal. That information's on the forum page. All right, so we're going to go through this together. Been a little bit since I've done this. Download these two files here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder. MakeMKV, save that there, and this one there as well. Then it's going to ask you to install some packages. So for Debian based, here's the commands for that. I'll link this below so you don't have to like sit here and copy down everything that I'm typing here, so you can actually see the install instructions. But anyway. Go ahead and run that. All right, now that we got that done, I'm just going to go ahead and change to my downloads and MakeMKV folder. And I can see those two files, they did finish downloading. And the first thing it's asking us to do is to unpack both of those files. So just tar xzf, MakeMKV, bin. Yep, and then tar xzf, MakeMKV OSS. All right, we got those both here. You can remove the tar files here. And let's see, the first one it wants us to do is the OSS package. So change directories there. All you got to do is /configure make all right, once that's run, sudo make install. Again, this kind of took a while, so just heads up, it might take a long time depending on how strong your PC is. All right, last thing is I'm going to go back and go to the bin file, and it's saying make. Please type yes. Okay. Sudo make install. All right. So this application will be installed in USR bin MakeMKV. If you want to, you can do all this other stuff. It's saying that most distributions shipped with an outdated version of libavc codec. It's optional. If you're having issues with it, you may have to go ahead and do this, but for now I'm just going to try and run it as is. And open MakeMKV. There it is. All right, so now that we got MakeMKV running, all we have to do is rip some of the Blu-rays that we own. Obviously, you're going to need a Blu-ray reader, which you can get for pretty cheap on Amazon. But once you have that in and run MakeMKV, it's going to show it detected my Blu-ray reader and that the tray is open. I'm just going to insert a disc. And it has a cool little animation showing that the disc is inserting and that it's reading it. All right, once everything loads and it picks up all the information here, all you have to do is click on Open Blu-ray Disc. This is quote-unquote shareware, and you can evaluate it for quote-unquote 30 days without needing to buy it. All you got to do is basically reinstall it, and it doesn't care. But for now, I will say yes, I want to start my evaluation period for 30 days. And right now, it's just scanning everything and decrypting it. All right, I'm going to maximize it here, give us a better look. So you can see it picked up a bunch of different titles. This is a DVD of Gate that's subbed and dubbed, so it picked up both the Japanese audio and the English. I'm just going to keep both of them for now. Why not? I'm going to select all of them. Sometimes if you like have a movie or something in there, it's going to pick up all the like extra features and like the home screen, all that stuff. You can just kind of uncheck stuff that you don't want. The way you just go based on file size. If you see something here, it's supposed to be a movie, but the file size is like a few megabytes, you know, it's probably just like one of those extra files, so you can just go ahead and uncheck that. But this didn't have anything extra, so just pick the 9 episodes, select your output folder, Gate BD1, that's good with me, and you just got to click save. Doesn't exist, so please create it for me, and it's going to take a little bit to rip everything and add it to that folder. All right, actually, so while this runs, I just realized I made a movies folder earlier, but not a shows folder. So I'm just going to show you how to do that after the fact in Jellyfin. So all I did was basically follow that same process on the server itself and created the shows directory. And in order to add that to Jellyfin, you just go over to the settings and your admin dashboard, libraries, add media library. And it's going to be shows, display name shows. And I'm going to navigate to that folder again. Media, shows on there. Okay. Again, keep the defaults and we're good to go. Now we have the shows in there. All right. So I went ahead and canceled the MakeMKV rip a little early because I didn't want to sit there while it ripped 9 different episodes. So once it finished the first one, I just stopped it and you can see it downloaded that first episode to my folder that I specified, and we can open it up and see that it is working. So there we go. Now, the only tedious part about ripping DVDs and things like that is you're going to actually have to go back and rename everything in order for it to show up nicely. And they have specific naming conventions that you should follow for that. So for example, head over to the Jellyfin user guide and you'll see that they're expecting this format for your different shows. So you have the shows folder, you have the name of the show, and then the year that it came out. You start with season 0. If it's a special, like if there's OVAs or whatever for anime, it would be season 0. And then season 1 obviously is the regular first season. Under that, you have the series name, season 1, episode 1, and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create that naming convention here. So I'll create a folder called Gate 2015. Save it. And within that folder, I'll create a new folder, season 01, like it said. All right. Season 1 has been created. Now I just need to rename the title of the first episode, and it's saying name it the name of the series, and then season 1, episode 1 right after that. So rename Gate season 01E01, rename, and then I'll throw that in the season 1 folder. And then I'm going to go ahead and SCP this over just like I did with the music. And copy these over. And I'm going to open up that terminal again. Let's see, which one is it? What? Oh, here we go. And you can see Gate is there. So I'm going to do move Gate to shows. Oh, of course, got to do it as sudo. And it is there. Going to run back to our shows library. Same thing, scan library, like we did when we first uploaded the music, scan for updated files. All right, and we can see what's really cool about Jellyfin is it actually goes ahead and grabs all of these photos for you on the internet using their open APIs, even grabs things like the cast and crew and all that stuff. Makes it really nice. You can see nice cropped photo and everything. You can open that up, and it's got the first episode right here that you can click and watch. You can also set different settings here, so like the quality, aspect ratio. There should be a place where you can set the audio. Oh yeah, here we go, audio. So you see how it picked up both the English and Japanese. MakeMKV also copies over the subtitles, so you can grab that. So it has all the features that you would want in a streaming service, but it's on a server that you actually own with media files that you actually own that can't be taken away from you. So yeah, that's Jellyfin. Host all your movies, music, shows, books, photos, all in one location on your own server, hosted by you, with media files that are owned by you and can't be taken away from you at any point by streaming service who all of a sudden say that you should no longer have access to the media that you already purchased. It's a great platform. Definitely recommend checking it out. It's super easy to get set up. The only thing we're missing now is in its current state, this Jellyfin server can only be accessed on your local network. In order to get it working to where you can access it over the internet from your friend's house, or if you're traveling or anything like that, it's going to take a few extra steps that I'm going to get into now. So when I want to host something on my local network and I want to be able to access it from outside of my network, what I usually do is use a reverse proxy. The way that reverse proxies work is that you have a machine sitting in the cloud that is publicly accessible on the internet by anybody. Okay, and here's your Jellyfin server on your local network. And here is your phone from outside of your network on the internet that wants to connect to the Jellyfin server. The way this works is your Jellyfin server is going to reach out to this publicly available internet server and establish a connection between the two. Most firewalls, they're going to allow outbound connections, but not inbound connections just directly from the internet. So what this does is it's making an outbound connection to the cloud, so that way traffic can flow freely between the two. Now, when you want to connect to your Jellyfin server from outside of your network, you can't just connect to it directly because it won't allow you, because that would be an incoming network traffic, and that's going to get blocked by your firewall, which is what we want, because we don't just want any random person on the internet to be able to access your local network. Instead, your smartphone or whatever you're using outside of your network to connect to your Jellyfin server is going to reach out to that cloud server as well. And then at that point, it's going to allow a connection from your smartphone to the cloud server back to your Jellyfin server, and then from your Jellyfin server out to the cloud server, back to your smartphone, and the packets are going to flow between the two. This might add a bit of a delay as opposed to direct connection, but it's going to be negligible. The reverse proxy that I like to use is called Boringproxy. It's 100% free and open source, and it's super simple to set up. It requires essentially no configuration whatsoever. All you need is, like I said earlier, a server that's accessible over the internet, domain name, and a couple files that are going to connect your local Jellyfin server to your internet-facing server and make that tunnel happen. Now, I'm not going to go over the setup of Boringproxy in today's video, but if you go over to boringproxy.io, there's a really good video that shows you everything that you need to do in order to get this working. Like I said, it's extremely easy, and it's essentially just running a couple files and pointing it to a domain. But that's all just if you want to access your Jellyfin server from outside of your local network. If you're within your local network, you're connected to your Wi-Fi, you'll just be able to connect to it over its local IP address. And the Jellyfin apps also support downloading your content locally. So if you are on your home network and you just want to download a show for a trip that you're going on, for example, you can just connect to it on your local network, download it, and then you'll be able to watch it offline while you're on your trip and not even have to connect to your Jellyfin server, which is the way that I'm going to be running this.